You can't remember it. Not clearly, maybe not at all, but your body still knows. A certain tone of voice and your stomach drops. A specific smell and something in you closes. Someone raises their hand too fast and you flinch before you know why. The memory isn't in your head, it's in you. And for a long time, there was no good explanation for why this happens. Here's what the research shows. Your brain doesn't have one memory system. It has several, and two of them matter most for understanding this. The first is explicit memory. This lives in the hippocampus. It stores the narrative of your life. What happened, when, where, who was involved. It's the memory you can access consciously, describe in words, and put into sequence. The second is implicit memory. This is older, faster, and lives in structures including the amygdala. It doesn't store stories. It stores responses. Emotional responses, physical responses, reflexes, patterns of activation. And crucially, it stores them without language, without narrative, without a timeline you can consciously access. Joseph LeDoux spent decades mapping how the amygdala processes emotional memory. His research showed that the amygdala can encode and retrieve emotional responses completely independently of the hippocampus. The two systems can operate in parallel, or they can disconnect. This is what happens in overwhelming experiences. When something is too much, too fast, too frightening, too painful, the hippocampus struggles to encode it properly. The narrative breaks down. The sequence gets fragmented. The story doesn't get stored cleanly. But the amygdala doesn't care about stories. It encodes the emotional and physical response with no problem. So you end up with a body that carries the response to something your conscious mind never fully filed. You can't remember what happened, but your nervous system remembers what to do when it happens again. Babette Rothschild, trauma specialist and author of The Body Remembers, put it plainly. People who have been through overwhelming experiences hold an implicit memory of those events in their brains and bodies. The memory is often expressed not as a recollection, but as a symptom, a startle response, a shutdown, a sudden irrational dread, a physical sensation with no story attached. Bessel van der Kolk, whose decades of research produced The Body Keeps the Score, described the same thing in different terms. The body keeps a record that the mind was never able to write, and this is why talk alone so often isn't enough. You can understand intellectually that the situation is safe. You can know it, believe it, argue for it, and your body still responds. Because the body's response is not based on what you now understand. It's based on what the nervous system encoded before understanding was possible. This is also why certain things hit differently than their surface content would suggest. The reason that specific song undoes you, that specific place makes you restless, that specific type of silence feels dangerous. The conscious mind looks at the present moment and sees nothing that should produce this feeling. The body is not in the present moment. It is in the moment those feelings were first learned. So what do you do with this? First, understand that this is a different memory system, not a malfunction. Your body isn't confused, it's operating exactly as designed. The implicit system is doing what it evolved to do, holding on to responses that once mattered, making them available instantly without waiting for conscious thought. The problem is not the system. The problem is that the system was calibrated in conditions that no longer exist. Second, working with the body requires working through the body. Cognitive understanding helps, but it speaks to the hippocampus, the narrative system. The implicit system responds to different input: breath, movement, sensation, repetitive experiences of safety that slowly update what the nervous system expects. This is why therapy modalities that include body awareness, somatic therapies, EMDR, breathwork have shown effectiveness for responses that talking alone couldn't shift. They speak the right language. Third, the response is not an identity. Flinching is not who you are. The shutdown is not your personality. The dread is not a character flaw. It is a recording. It is your nervous system playing back the only response it learned was appropriate, in a moment when appropriate responses were being learned under impossible conditions. So the next time your body reacts before your mind can explain why, don't ask, "Why am I like this?" Ask, "What is my body remembering right now?" You don't have to have the full story to work with what's here. The flinch is information, not a flaw. The response is a record, not a sentence. Your body kept the record, not to trap you in it, to make sure you survived it.